I'm Jeff Van West for IFR Magazine and AvWeb. And this Mooney behind me, while not a difficult airplane to fly, can be a challenge if you both try to slow down and go down. That can be an issue if you get a slam dunk approach. We're going to take the guesswork out of the slam by going up and practicing it. Here's how it works. The first thing is to find yourself a good VFR day and a safety pilot you trust. Work out who's going to be writing down the numbers and looking for traffic and who's going to be flying the airplane.
Biddeford traffic, Mooney 66 Hotel, rolling for departure runway 24, Biddeford.
Then go find yourself a nice empty piece of sky. Once you're airborne, get into your high-speed cruise configuration.
So we got 24 inches, 2400 RPMs, clean configuration.
Yep. Speed's coming up now, so just give it a minute.
For this Mooney, that was 2400 RPM, 24 inches of manifold pressure, and truing out at about 145 knots. Now the idea of the calculated slam is that we start at that speed, but we'll end up at the speed and configuration the pilot's used to. In this case, hitting DA on an ILS at about 90 knots, 14 inches with the prop forward and gear and approach flaps out. Because gear speed was just over 130, yet flap speed was only 110, we decided to try and come down the ILS at 125 knots with the gear down but the flaps still up. What we needed now was a power setting to let us slow down to 125 and then go down at 125. Step 1 was slow down. It turned out we needed to bring the power all the way back to 15 inches of manifold pressure to get the Mooney to slow down in time for us to be able to reach up and drop the flaps at 125 knots. So by bringing the power back to 15 inches, we can slow from our full speed at point A to our top of descent at point B. But how long does this take? In seconds, so we can be prepared for it. We timed that 3 times in flight.
Cruise airspeed, reducing power.
Timer started.
Gear speed.
Timer stopped. That was 19.7,
So it takes us about 20 seconds to slow down from point A at 145 knots to point B at 125 knots. Now, how much power do we need to descend from point B to point C holding a 3-degree glide slope and that 125 knots with gear out? We tested that in flight as well. Pitching to hold 125 knots, we found it took about 22 inches of manifold pressure to keep that 125 and a descent rate of about 650 feet per minute. Less power, we descended too quickly. More power, we didn't descend quickly enough. We added that to our chart. Now we don't want to hit point C, decision altitude, still doing 125 knots with the gear down but the flaps still up. So there needs to be a transition at some point above decision altitude. We need to make the transition from 125 down to 90 knots and get the flaps out. We timed this last bit and added it to our chart. While holding our descent, we brought the power back from 22 to 14, pitched for a slowing descent, letting the airspeed bleed off until we hit flap speed.
Approach flaps coming out.
And saw how much altitude we lost. Turned out, it was less than 200 feet. Now it was time to try it out on a real ILS.
Afternoon, Boston, Mooney 4566 Hotel.
Mooney 4566 Hotel, Boston.
Yeah, we're at Mooney, we're over.
In a little bit of turbulence, we got on the localizer at full cruise speed, and then estimating when we were about 20 seconds before glide slope intercept, we brought the power back, let the plane slow. "20 seconds later we had intercept, and it was time to drop the gear.
On the glide slope.
Pitch down and power up to stay on the glide slope at 125 knots.
66 Hotel. The advisor is crafted a pattern of width points by contact Portsmouth Tower 128.4.
We held 125 knots with that power setting all the way down to within 200 feet of DA.
There's DA plus 200, runway in sight.
Power to 14 inches. Pitch up to hold the glide slope until flap speed, flaps out, and by DA, 90 knots, configured for landing.
And we're cleared for the option.
You can do this for a non-precision approach too. You just need to know how long it takes you to slow down from A to B, how long it takes you to descend at your high-speed approach for each 1,000 feet you come down and how much distance over the ground you cover, and how much time you need to slow down just enough for landing.
Just like the old joke about Carnegie Hall, the key to doing this is practice, practice, practice. Once you have good numbers, put them on a cheat sheet, put them aside, and then periodically pull them out and do a high-speed approach. That way, when you really need one, you'll be ready. I'm Jeff Van West for IFR Magazine and AvWeb. Thanks for watching.